So just doing a super quick deck tech here. I've recently decided to buy into Vintage Dredge in preparation for a tournament coming up towards the end of the year, where there is a Vintage Winter Mox. Dredge is the only deck I can realistically borrow for this. Unfortunately, I don't have access to most of the rest of the stuff that I need for, I guess, a blue deck in Vintage, which would probably be my first choice, mostly because I think it would be more fun. Having said that, I do quite like playing Dredge anyway, so and this is probably the one that I have the best chance with, as at least I'm somewhat familiar with how Dredge works. So just quickly onto what I've done here. I just didn't really want to buy Force of Will online, so I found a list that wasn't running it, and made a couple of alterations. So the list that I could find that weren't running it were all running 16 lands and Leyline of the Void. I imagine Leyline is Leyline is there to help protect your graveyard. Helps in a little bit of practice that I've had in the tournament practice room. It has helped a lot against shops. What are some other features here? So I've gone down from 16 lands to 14. I wanted to fit in a little bit more action, so I wanted to fit in some Golgari, Thugs, and some Amalgams. You'll notice there's no Serum Powder in this list, as I noticed the Leyline decks didn't play any Serum Powders. They were often playing Unmask, but I kind of figured having a higher density of threats between just Amalgams and more consistent Dredge from Thugs probably would offset for that. I'm not sure how accurate that is. It's possible I should have some Mind Break traps, so that might be something to look at in the future. If I do that, I'll probably go down to 12 lands and cut one Icarid. So just a quick overview here. Obviously 4 Bazaars, a bit of a weird breakup between City of Brass and Mana Confluence, just because of me grabbing whatever was cheap. There's not really much difference practically between them. A couple of Dakmor Salvages to ensure that we enable Bloodghast as well as we possibly can. Undiscovered Paradise has helped do that as well. We've got a Singleton Petrified Field just to help protect against occasional strip mines, and occasionally if you get the right hand with something like a Bazaar, a Dredger, and a Petrified Field works as another Bazaar. We have a fairly clean list. We have obviously 4 of just about everything, the exception being we're down to 3 Amalgams, which I think is more than enough. We do have 4 Icarids, which I think might be one too many for Vintage lists. They don't seem to need it, and they don't necessarily support it all that well. We have 2 Dread Returns. We only have a single Dread Return target. I moved the second Dread Return target to the sideboard. The reason being I'm not necessarily convinced that it's worthwhile all the time. We have Elish Norn in the sideboard to help against Mentor decks. So I think we're already set up reasonably well against them game 1. So I'm not too fussed about it. And yeah, as mentioned before, the ley lines help a lot with shops, just because they have the option of playing something like Hangerback Walker or Walking Ballista for 0. Moving on to the sideboard, obviously there's the Elish Norn that I spoke about. We've got a couple of Wisp-Mare Serenities as nice broad sweepers. Ingot Chewers as an alternative form of Artifact Hate for Nature's Claims, just because they seem to be they're generally the most efficient, and maybe you'll have to fight over them with a misstep from time to time, but generally 1 to 2 Nature's Claims will get you there. And a couple of Barbarian Rings to deal with Ixalan Jailers and Containment Priests. I think maybe going down to 3 rings is correct, and maybe another Ingot Chewer. But this is the list I'm running back for today.